This is a town hall on climate action. We are coming to you live from Pwani University in Kilifi County, looking at climate action in the 6 counties of the coastal region of Kenya: Kilifi, Kwale, Mombasa, Lamu, Tana River, and Taita Taveta. I've got a panel with me here. My name is Eric Latif. I've got a panel with me here led by the host governor of Kilifi County, Gideon Mungaro, who's also the chair of the Coast Regional Bloc, the Jumuiya Counties of Pwani. I have an academic, Lucia Tieno. We've got Granton Wandawiro, who's the County Executive Committee member for Environment in Taita Taveta. Philip Kilonzo, Head of Policy Advocacy and Communications at the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance, and Gladys Mjama, who's the Director of Partnerships and Investments at the Jumuiya Counties of Pwani. We also have a big audience here that's going to be very, very engaging shortly. As we took the break, we heard what the counties have been doing and what needs to be done. The governor of Kilifi County, for example, told us, he had to amend the law so that a bit more money is allocated from the development budget of the county government to go towards specific programs that will be addressing climate action. 2% of that goes into climate action. What does 2% translate to? How much in terms of shillings per year?
With the development budget, around 140, 160, somewhere like that.
So about 150 million shillings per year to go towards this.
Yeah.
And you're already running now your first full, every governor was saying from June, July, we'll be operating our first full budget as the new administration. So is this already translating to the ground?
Yes, what we are doing is, it will be in this financial year, the 2024-2025.
The next financial year, all right.
We have already allocated the money to form the committees at the ward level. Also, what is happening is with the FLOCA project, which is a World Bank project, a lot of money has come to the national government, but does not reach the counties.
What does that mean?
The money comes to Treasury.
So FLOCA is a 5-year program.
I'm sure you have seen in the...
FLOCA is a 5-year program,
yes,
which is putting in money into a pot.
Yes.
World Bank managed, other donors, and then that should be coming to the counties so that it goes all the way to the communities. And you're saying so far, not a single shilling has been drawn from FLOCA?
So far, we have received only 11 million. But if you see the agenda we have for the next 5 years, in the 2023-2027, for example, what part of the programs we have in Kilifi is the establishment of different committees. Also, they developed the Kilifi County Action Plan 2023-2027. But at least this cycle of the counties, FLOCA has come back to the counties, although we have not received any money. The past 2017-2022, all the money which came from donors for climate action was held at the Treasury in Nairobi. It was being run by the CS Treasury then. We hope this one now, apart from the 11 million they have sent, which Kilifi is supposed to receive about 137 from the FLOCA program through World Bank, comes plus the money we are putting in, we should do many actions on the ground.
Governor, you sit at the Council of Governors, you engage with the national government. Why is the money not coming?
We have engaged the government, and after push and shove, we got the 11 million.
What have you done with the 11 million? Is it 11 million per county or 11 million for all the counties?
There are counties, FLOCA is not for all the counties. Yeah, it targets certain counties.
Yeah.
So we got 11 million. Part of the things we've been doing is there's a what you call first establishing the committees. You need to do. There are certain actions you have to take.
It's putting the structures in place.
The structures before you get any funding, which we did. Kilifi have since submitted. I've been talking to Treasury as late as 2 weeks ago, and they said, yes, Kilifi, you did well, we have everything in place, we'll get the money, but this is what we hear always. You must have had the government have announced the last 2 weeks that they have sent money for December for Kilifi County. We had it in the news, we have not seen the money. So this is what is going on around. So I think we need to take more action. Kilifi, during the El Nino, was affected more. We lost 26 lives in Kilifi County because of floods. Some houses fell in the middle of the night and killed some people. So we have had so many issues, and which we need really to focus on.
Right.
We have been doing our bit as a county, especially during the El Nino. You had even during the El Nino, when the government was claiming I've sent money to counties, we did everything by ourselves, yeah, with our emergency funds. But go today to this county, all the roads are more or less impassable, yeah, because after the El Nino, what we needed was at least to do interventions of repairing our roads and whatever. But if you don't get the money, yeah, because the unfortunate thing which is happening in counties is that even the on-source revenue, the money we collect, still goes to Nairobi, then it's brought to us. When we collect the money, it all goes to the CF account, which goes to Nairobi, then it's allocated. You know, at least if we had it and we could use it from source, we could do some of the interventions ourselves. But you collect your money, goes to Nairobi, you wait for 1 year to get it back. You know.
Philip, we hear this conversation many times. You hear frustration being expressed by county governors. You hear the national government saying, you know what, we need structures in place, and the county governments are just putting structures in place sort of to check the boxes. So what are we supposed to have? We're supposed to have a county committee. We have a county committee. We're supposed to do this, but it's not sufficient. What do we need to do to stop this back and forth? You know, it's like that whole conversation of everybody knew what needed to be done. In the end, nobody did it.
Okay, I think first and foremost, and I want first to look at FLOCA. I want to look at FLOCA and then come to your question.
Yeah.
And looking at FLOCA, first and foremost, is a loan. We need loans to address climate catastrophes in this particular country. And that is that the best model? And the answer is no. But it could be the best model in terms of its aspiration to have the front line, the communities who are most affected, determining the best course of action. But we need to interrogate the speed within which actions, institutions, and the structures are being put in place. Because if the speed is not appropriate, then we are losing the time that is actually needed for response. Let's look at the reports that were there last year, linked to adaptation, the growing gap in adaptation, and the need for urgent measures, particularly in strengthening measures for adaptation globally. The report really pushes for urgent action, and those urgent action need to be seen at the front line, not in offices, not in bureaucratic spaces, discussing processes and processes. The man needs to go to the front line. The mechanism for it to go to the front line then need to be debureaucratized so that those resources then flow at speed and scale. Flowing at speed and scale is extremely important, because if you are sending 10 million to Kilifi, that's a drop in the ocean. That's the first and foremost important thing to note, that is just a drop in the ocean. Number two, in terms of the counties themselves then need to look at themselves not only as units of service delivery, but more importantly, political units for pushing for a devolution agenda, and also organizing in a fundamental manner to challenge the status quo at the national level. Because look at the context of the country. Kenya was, and Kenya is not an exception to many other African countries. Most of their nationally determined contributions, which are actually the climate change response plans, are mitigation-centric. So if you are speaking to the national government, it might not see the essence of adaptation. Adaptation is peripheral, because their plan and the plan that they are implementing is around how to cut on emissions.
Yeah.
Yet counties are sitting at the forefront of climate crisis, where action is most urgently needed, and that action is needed in adaptation. So unless first and foremost counties are able to see themselves as that block, then they miss a point. And this goes to now the convergence of counties like the Jumuiya ya Pwani, huge block, huge capabilities, huge powers. Are they using their political power to push for those resources to flow at speed and scale? That's the first thing. Number two, are they looking at themselves as an entity that can also mobilize resources? And when I go to the strategic plan, and sorry, Madam Gladys, when I go to the strategic plan of Jumuiya ya Pwani, it is not leading us there. I think you read the first almost 20 pages, there is nothing, it's silent on climate change. There is no reference, single reference on climate change. I think I stopped there and I went to see where could it be implied, around page 66, where they start talking about environmental issues. So the disconnect is in how we start to frame the issues right from the onset, because it means to the national government that it's not a priority to us. So long as we are able to flip the priority setting, then we are able then to advance a conversation with national government that gives climate change a priority within national discourse. Thanks.
Gladys, of course, this is an opportunity for you. You're the chair of the Jumuiya.
Say, Eric, I've listened to Philip very carefully. The national government, you have heard it yourself. When we are busy trying to now restore forests, plant trees, then you get the head of state announcing of having removed the ban of cutting logging. So where are we going? You know, you can't on one hand say we want to mitigate the action and the environment, then the other hand you are saying you have removed the ban of logging for wood in our forests. I think the priority, I agree with him that our priorities as counties probably to a certain level, but the national government also. What I can say is we are trying to do a lot. I've been in office now for about 1.5 years. We have formed different groups at the ward level, but also we have put seedlings, and we are trying to encourage even schools. There are several schools we have working with, for example, in Ganze, where we are doing trees for cash. That instead of just planting any trees, we give the kids mango trees, oranges, so that is not only, we are not only reforesting, but we also can get cash because you can harvest after. Cashew nuts, we have a program we are doing with one of the factories here, and we are working very closely with the Embassy of Slovakia and USAID, on that program of planting and to use fruit trees as the target when we are trying to take our actions. So there are many things we can do. You are right. We have been a bit slow because, as you have seen, also the program, which is always done on environment. There's one big conference happening in Nairobi, you're aware, from Monday. The UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, which they are doing at Gigiri. But you'll see again, national government is the forefront. But what are they doing about it? After they don't get only money from donors, from loans, but also they get a lot of money from grants from donors. But once we see it we only see it in the, what you call the Gazette, what is it called? The National Gazette, when you do the Kenya Gazette. They say this money will go here, this money will go there, but there's no action.
There's no action. Governor, I want to just come back here. When you talk about, what the two levels of government are saying, and it appears like there's a disconnect between what the conversation is off air and what the conversation is on air. We are going to plant trees, we are going to allow the logging. We've got to respond to this. There's a whole conversation about the baobab and the exportation of baobab. It has happened in your county. What's that all about? And how does that address?
This was a very sad story. That's why I'm telling you. The national government does not really, sometimes they preach water, but they're drinking wine. The issue of baobab in this county, and I engage these people directly, because when at one time, these baobabs were all stored somewhere in Bofa Beach. One day, I woke up because I was operating from the residence here, and I saw trucks full of baobab now going to load in some deck here at the old ferry. And I summoned my officers and I said, can I see these people who are carrying this stuff? Then they came, they said, oh, now all of a sudden they have permission to take what they had uprooted. I picked the phone and called the Minister of Environment. And I said, what are you talking about? I thought these baobab trees were not leaving Kenya. Said, oh, we have allowed them to take only the 6, but not to come again. I told them, you can be sure they'll not come as long as I'm a governor here and I'm alive and I'm a Kilifi resident. You know, you can't say this story, this side, and the other side you're saying something else.
Back and forth. Gladys, you as a technocrat who sit at the Jumuiya counties of Pwani, you advise the executive and the governors on what needs to be done. You've heard what Philip is saying. Page 1, 2, 3, 4. Page what? 60 what, Philip? That's the first time where you see the word environment coming. And yet, when you talk about climate and the effects of climate, sea levels are rising. People are dying in terms of drought and lack of water. All these challenges are here within the 6 communities. In Lamu, lakes are drying up. Is the Jumuiya tone deaf?
Actually, let me respond to that. In fact, in our Jumuiya 2030, natural resource and environment is one of our 10 pillars that are set in that. And we've been doing quite a lot, especially in the project that we're doing called the Go Blue project. In Lamu, that we know that 70% of the mangroves are found in Lamu County. There's a whole project that is being run there to help restore mangroves in Lamu and sustain that. And not only that, to be able to develop blue carbon from that as well. And in Taita, we've been doing work in terms of waste management audit. In Mombasa, we've been doing a water treatment facility in Mikindani. And so there are initiatives that we're doing. Of course, the needs are many, and the finances are not sufficient to be able to cater for some of these. But one of the things that we are doing as Jumuiya is to be able to really seek out more investors. And so one of the things we've been trying to do is write down projects and initiatives. One of the projects we've written at the moment, and we are looking for partners, is in regenerative agriculture. Because one of the things that we need in Pwani is for us to be self-sufficient, especially in terms of food security. And that is one of the things that is being affected a lot by climate. And so if we find solutions to that through regenerative agriculture, I think that can also assist in that process. And so these are some of the aspects that we help to really advise and bring forward that can help propel. Because our role is that if we're only going to rely on the financing from counties, it's not enough. We need efforts from all around. And so one of the things we do as a coordinating agency is reach out to other NGOs, reach out to other entities. How can we collaborate together? I'm so glad that our waziri is here, because one of the platforms we've created is those sector working group forums where we can all sit together. You know, one of the things that happens in the coast is that people are working, a lot of NGOs are working in silos. So one is driving one initiative here, another one is driving, but we're not hearing everything that is happening. Another thing is that a lot of these NGOs gather a lot of data from the coast on climate action, but that data is kept within themselves. One of the things we're trying to develop is a regional data center, that we have this information, because information is power. You know, if we don't have what is happening on the ground, we cannot develop projects that can drive solutions for our issues.
Okay, yeah. Suleiman Yeri will be coming to you shortly as you engage the public. Let's hear from the audience shortly, just shortly as I get this. So Suleiman will be engaging the people. We want to hear, we're hearing, expecting solutions to come from elsewhere, expecting a solution to come from the government, expecting support from donors, from private sector players. Are there solutions that are being developed at community level that the communities have actually come up with, and they do not need to expect, any support from World Bank, from the NIDA, from the Germans, from the Japanese, that are being done at the community level? Suleiman, you'll engage the audience shortly. Governor, you want to raise this?
To say something on that. The community is doing a lot. You go to a place called Kidundu here, when you talk of mangrove, there's a whole group of youth and women restoring mangrove. You go to Mida, the same is happening with different groups of youth and women who are doing it. You go to Dabaso, where I come from, my village, we do a lot of mangrove restoration. But check today, because of the blue carbon Gladys was talking about, already government have started even doing surveys without involving counties, and starting negotiating with business communities out of Kenya probably you will go to Kidundu and find out that the whole mangrove of that area has already been auctioned by national government. And that's why we said we need to now come clearly and have asked the Department of Environment with lands to do a survey of all our mangrove areas. And if we see anything which has already been sold to the people who are engaged in the business of carbon credits, then we will protest and go to court. We are not going to allow it. You cannot come, you don't plant the trees. The women of Kidundu are planting, the women and youth of Mida are planting, and you come and just do a contract on behalf of Kilifi County. You receive the money in Nairobi. You don't even bring 1 shilling to the people who are doing the restoration of our mangroves.
Lucy, you've heard what the governor is saying, and we'll hear even from the audience shortly of what communities are doing. So in terms of facing and bearing the brunt of climate change, they are. In terms of thinking what they need to do to survive day after day, they already have the solutions, and they're coming up with the solutions, and they're already taking the lead on things that need to be done. Now, do they need support from the government, or do they need... Is it a right of theirs that they should be receiving whatever facilitation they need from the government? Because if you call it facilitation, I think that's different from just saying support. Support sounds like it's a favor that's coming to them.
Yeah, thank you. I think communities are already taking action to mitigate impacts of climate change, but they need some cooperation or collaboration with other stakeholders. Because for climate action, you need some resource capacities, and that is where you find that matters for the difference who is able to survive particular impacts of climate change or who is not able to survive because of differences in resource capacities, differences in their decision authorities or power positions in societies, and also differences in the roles that they play in society. I think in the previous session, there was someone who spoke about women doing like 99% of most domestic activities and bearing the brunt of this. So the support that has to be there has to factor in what ways do these communities need to be empowered for their resource capacities, for the different roles that they do, what can be enhanced, and maybe the different relational power structures that are there, what can be done in that.
Thank you. So Suleiman, let's come to you, Zungumza kwenye ukumbi. Let's hear the people and what the communities are actually doing in terms of addressing their own daily existential issues. Suleiman.
Bila shaka, Eric Latif, kama unavyosema, niko kwenye ukumbi. Ninaye kijana mmoja ambapo gavana amezungumzia Kidundu, na najua yeye ni mmoja ya wale ambao wamekuwa wakikaa katika eneo la Kidundu wakipanda mikoko. Banda, simama kidogo kwa dakika moja. Una yapi ambayo gavana ameyazungumzia kuhusiana na masuala ya floka na swala la Kidundu kwa dakika moja?
Mwanzo nataka ku appreciate gavana. Gavana amekuwa mkakamavu sana in terms of environment issues. Kwa vile wakati alikuwa MP kule Malindi kulikuwa kusafi sana. Hapo hongera. The other thing is, Mr. Governor, I think priorities and structures are very key. And with your department, umefanya a lot of things. First of all, when you came within this short time, umekuwa na the 2% that you've added to the act. You've had the green armies that we have. That is good. We have the ward committees that you formed. That is through FLOCA. That is good. But there is a lot that needs to be done. In your budget as a county, can you allocate some money to this team, to the department? Not waiting for the FLOCA. Something from the budget, the annual budget, so that this team that you have in that department can work out something in matters environment in this county. Thank you.
Asante Kelly Banda huyo, na nataka niende kwake Ali Mwanzei, manake pia alikuwa anataka kutetea sana serikali ya county na kazi ambazo zinaendelea, hususan ule mradi ambao unaendelea kule Lamu. Kwa dakika moja Ali.
Asante sana. My name is Ali Mwanzei, technical advisor to the global project. I just wanted to support the governors when he talked of having completed the Climate Change Act for the county. Waziri from Taita Taveta also talked of the Climate Change Act for Taita Taveta and Climate Change Action. We are also talking with all the county executive committee members with regard to preparing the climate smart agriculture action plan for every county, so that we can bring in that aspect of regenerative agriculture or backyard kitchen gardening, so that we promote leafy vegetables and legumes in all the counties, because it's critical. We have over 700,000 households, and each household is struggling to plant some maize depending on the rainfall to come. But the rains are not coming. So we're really supporting the government in terms of looking into that aspect of regenerative agriculture, backyard kitchen gardening, so that we can try to improve the nutrition levels by using leafy vegetables and the legumes in that particular aspect. So I wanted to add into that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ali.
Asante sana. Huyo ni Ali Mwanzee ambaye ni mtaalamu wa kimkakati na kiufundi. Nataka nitafute mwanadada mmoja ambaye aweze kutupatia kauli yake na yeye. Maana yake tumewasikia wakizungumza kwa kina. Mapenzi, nadhani uko na kauli unataka kuzungumza.
Asante sana kwa hii fursa. Nataka pia nichukue nafasi hii kupongeza county government vile inavyofanya. But swala langu kubwa kwa bwana gavana, hivi juzi tumeona kule upande wa Matangoni Uyombo, na Matangoni tunajua ni one of the richest maeneo yenye mambo ya blue economy imepewa kipaumbele, na samaki wengi Kilifi kule wanatoka. Lakini kumekuwa na tetesi mambo, kuna power plant ama sijui ni nuclear power plant ambayo inafaa iwekwe sehemu ile. So wewe kama gavana, ni mikakati gani ambayo umeiweka ambayo itatuhakikishia sisi kama wakaaji wa Kilifi eneo letu la Uyombo bado itabaki kwa salama, na yule mwanamke pale nyanjani bado ama wale wavuvi bado samaki wataweza kuvua na watu wetu hawatafurushwa, kwa sababu watu sai rozi iko juu hawajui what will happen next. So wewe ni mikakati gani ambayo uko nayo, na tunahakikisho gani kuwa wale watu pale chini watabaki pale, na utatuhakikishia vipi?
Asante sana. Nataka nirudi kwako Eric Latif. Naona kuna maswali matatu na yote yakiwa yameelekezwa kwa gavana Mung'aro na wengineo ambao wapo katika jopo hilo hapo.
Asante sana Suleiman Yeri. Tutarudi kwako tena baadaye muda mfupi kidogo. Governor, let's start with this first one.
Asante. Nafikiri mambo mawili ama matatu yametajwa. Kwanza, masuala ya bajeti na ni vipi tunaweza kusaidia umma kufanya mambo ya kuchunga mazingira yetu. Kwanza nataka niseme hatukuwa na sababu yoyote ya kwamba tusiweze kuwa tayari. Sababu kubwa ni kwamba kama ninavyosema, nilichukua kaunti ambayo ilikuwa na asilimia inaitwa 0.5 ya bajeti. So the reason why we didn't have money now 2023-2024 allocated to it, kwa sababu ilikuwa lazima ni change sheria kwanza. Singeweza kuweka pesa kwa bajeti ambazo hazikufanywa sheria. So mwaka mzima, wewe angalia, nilikuwa mwaka na nusu, niliweza kufanya public participation, tukafanya yote, ndio tukaunda sheria mpya ya kuweza kuturuhusu tuweke bajeti. Ndio maana kwa sababu tulifanya karibu mwisho wa mwaka, na kama mnavyojua bajeti za Kenya ni inaanza mwezi wa 6 mpaka wa 6. Kwa hivyo tulipomaliza sheria yetu mpya ilikuwa karibu mwezi wa 12, tukapitwa na wakati. Lakini wananchi wa Kilifi wataona mwaka huu ambao sasa tuko na sheria kwamba kutakuwa na bajeti ya kuweza sisi kushughulikia na wananchi wetu, hasa wale ambao wamejitolea huko, unaona kama Kidundu na kwingine. Na nakubaliana na Gladys vile amesema, Kilifi hii iko na NGOs ama mashirika yasiyo ya serikali zaidi ya 250. Lakini kila mtu anafanya kazi yake. Pengine mara nyingine wengine hata wanaenda kufanya kazi mafanya na mwenzao, wapige picha waseme imefanywa. Ndio maana nimesema na nimeongea na nilikuwa na mkutano na CSOs zaidi ya 200 miezi 2-3 iliyopita, na mwezi wa 5 tumepanga kuita mkutano mkubwa wa kila shirika ambalo si la serikali linafanya kazi Kilifi. Tukae kwa room hivi tuulizane, wewe unafanya kazi ipi, wewe unafanya ipi, pesa zako unapeleka wapi, ili tuweke hizi pesa zote kwa kikapu kimoja. Watu wengine 10 wanafanya kazi moja, na haijulikani ni kazi gani wengine wanafanya. Nilipokuwa na mkutano na magavana wa Pwani na European Union, kitu moja ambacho niliwaambia waziwazi bila kusita, niliwaambia sasa mambo ya kizungu tumalize. Kizungu mumeongea kutosha. Our grandparents, they have been empowered, wamekuwa na capacity building ya kutosha. Sasa tuende tengeze infrastructure. Tuache maneno ya kukaa kwa mahoteli tena na maroom na mikutano kila siku. I told the European Union, they are witnesses. I told them, wacheni kizungu. I spoke for 2 minutes. I told them, wacheni kizungu sasa, let's go to the ground. Hii pesa yote mnakaa nayo kwa mahoteli na ndege mwachane nayo.
Walikubali ama walikwambia?
We had a meeting in Voi after that. I think I made sense. So we had all the ambassadors in Voi with all the governors, and we did a tour of the coast. Yeah? Because of this subject of climate and generally the funding they bring in different projects, which are handed over to some NGOs, which some of them we don't know what they do, but they receive a lot of money. So that's why I said I want to have an engagement. I've done the first stretch of that. I engaged at KCC Kilifi 200 CSOs. Now in May, I'm not only inviting the NGOs, but even their funders, the embassies. I'll write to every embassy and invite them for that meeting. Let's sit and have a conversation. Yeah? And even the national government, I think the World Bank, the European Union, all the donors who bring grants and even loans, they should just work directly with the counties. Why do you want to have, why hire a lawyer when you can buy the judge?
So, Governor, that's harmonization of all the activities by donor. There is a question that's come up on the issue of nuclear and, of course, community questions and concerns about some of these projects that come up this one of the nuclear power plant has been a funny one recently.
Yes, I didn't answer that one. The issue of power plant, the NUPEA program in Matsangoni, I think I've engaged the Rupea people that have come to see me for a courtesy call, and I was very clear with them. I told them, before I make any commitment as a county, governor and my team, the executive or the assembly, first let's have an engagement. Let's get to know the pros and cons of this nuclear plant. How will it affect our people? What are the benefits? What are the measures for safety? All this before I put my final word. And that's why I've been quiet, because some of the time they have been doing also wrong engagements. They always think they can come to Kilifi, rush to Matsangoni, engage people, and move on. It does not work like that. There's leadership. And the moment I'll go to Matsangoni and say, forget this program, it's not good for us, I don't think they'll move anywhere. But they think, what we say here in our local community is that they are climbing the tree from the top down. I thought this government is bottom up, but now we can see this one is coming down up, from down, up, down. So it does not work that way. This thing of nuclear, we know nuclear energy has really progressed. They have done many soft measures, but I want to say as a county, we have not yet adopted and we have not yet tabled in our assembly or to the cabinet to discuss and agree on the NUPEA or a nuclear plant in Matsangoni.
Are there plans to do that? Are there plans to do that?
Yes, we will, when the time comes.
Okay.
At the moment, we are just watching these guys who think they can come to Kilifi and go around and talk to the public. By the time they will realize that we are going to tell our people, no, we are not going to have it, then they will realize there's leadership. Because now when they came for courtesy call once, I don't want to refuse that. But I was very clear to them from day one that I'm not going to commit anything on this nuclear project in Matsangoni. Let's engage the public. Let's engage the leadership, including the assembly. Yeah? They'll have to pass it in the assembly.
Okay.
We are not just going to do something because we are told, oh, we'll get this, we'll get that. We need to get all the issues around it.
Thank you, Governor. Waziri Mwandawiro, I want to come to you. I mean, as Taita Taveta County, you also have very many issues. One of them, of course, being a neighbor, one of the biggest national parks in the country being in your county, there must be a lot of human-wildlife conflict that, because of climate and climate action, climate and the effects of climate change. Tell us what your county is doing about that, while at the same time, you'll also tell us about budget and budgetary allocation. That's a question about how much are we doing in terms of, as counties, to engage as counties and dedicate resources towards climate adaptation.
Thank you, Lafty. And it's been a long time coming. I've
seated for some time. So let me take some good time to elaborate about the counties. One of the things is the funding that is coming to counties. All counties are not allocated funds equally. One of the biggest challenges that we have in Taita Taveta is the allocation that we're getting from the national government. And the discussion, even our governor has been talking about it time and time again. Any counties getting less than 7 billion are at a risk of failing. And Taita Taveta County is one of the least funded counties in the county. Because at heart, we are conservationists. Are we doing harm by conservation? Because 62% of our land is the national park, 24% of our land are ranches and conservancies. We have conserved 86% of our county. And that should be very well reciprocated when it comes to funding. The more you conserve, the more you should get from climate action. Secondly is how much have we been able to allocate for climate change? It goes back to funding. With other counties getting even as high as 15 billion, the county is getting around 4.7 billion. Out of which...
4.7 billion of what? That's shareable revenue?
Yeah, from the national government. So 2% of the development budget ends up being around 800 million. So 2% will come to around 16 million. Can 16 million be able to cover 17,000 square kilometers? Then we go back to who and why are we facing climate change? Who caused this? And it's the developed nation. China, European Union, USA, the biggest contributors. Who is bearing the brunt of climate change? It is the Kadzo, it is the Mwakio, it is the Wakio. There is, there are protocols that have been signed. There's a Kyoto Protocol. We have the loss and damage fund that has been allocated, which is, I think, from COP28 was around $700 million US. Where are those funds going to? They are the contributors. Who is bearing the brunt? Kadzo, Mwakio, Wakio. The structures have already been established. We as counties have the Climate Change Act, we have the structures, we have the committees, we have the regulations. 97% of the funding goes to resilience building. So it is that funding from adaptation, from loss and damage, should come to not the national government, but through the channels, all the way to the World Climate Change Committees, so that they can be able to reprieve the burden that is borne by the Kadzos and the Mwakios here in Coast.
So you've already done that.
Yes.
You've already established the structures.
Yes.
What is missing is the money.
Yes.
What do you want to do to get the money? What do you need to do to get the money?
We, as a Jumuiya, as you've heard from the governor, with the governor also from Taita Taveta being the chair of a water committee, every other time agitating for the counties that these laws and regulations that have been put in place, like what is preventing the FLOCA money is the County Extra Allocation Act or something like that, and which I want to thank the national parliament that passed it. I think it's was it a day or last week that they passed that act. So we have funds allocated, but coming to the counties, laws and legislations must be put in place. Those laws and legislations take a lot of time. We are now in March. Are we heading to March? The year is ending in June. The extra allocation that is coming to the county has not yet been sent. What happens is that by maybe May, the IFMIS system starts acting up. The funds get to the county maybe in April. How can you procure? How can you do the action?
So you cannot absorb.
Yes.
You'll be time barred.
You'll be time barred. And then the blame comes back to the counties that we are not absorbing.
So the trickling down effect of that funding should be very, very clear and elaborate.
Mondawiro, do you think we need to have changes in law, changes in the constitution, so that then counties stop behaving as if they are subservient to the national level of government?
That is true.
I'll come to you. Of course, Governor, as a council, you'll have to speak about that.
It's not even changes in law. The Constitution 2010 is very clear. There are functions that are allocated to the national government. There are functions that are allocated to the county government. Soil and water conservation, and forestry and natural resource conservation, implementation of the same is a function of the county government. How do we implement? We implement by getting funding. The laws are clear. The thing is, we need to respect the laws, let the funds come straight to the county governments, let us implement and act on climate change at the counties.
Governor, are the laws sufficient?
I think the
Do you need the court to...
Sorry?
Do you need the courts to make...
I think so if it doesn't happen soon, because even in our last summit with the president, we agreed on the THRC were given 6 months to finalize the transfer of
functions,
the remaining functions. But the only one we have received is a library at the moment, after 6 months.
And museums.
Library without even salaries. All the workers of libraries now have been sent to the county, and we got less 7 million salary. So we are paying again from the county kit. The money today which is supposed to come to the counties, especially on agriculture, there are so many items in agriculture where the national government is still holding the money. You could saw the other day, the Auditor General said, if we got all the money of the devolved functions in agriculture, probably we'll get another 276 billion. When you go to health, the same. They are still holding. How can you be still holding over 160 billion at national government on health when health is devolved? So here we have El Nino, we have waterborne diseases, we have all the problems we are facing. When you come to agriculture, if you see Kilifi today, we have in the plan we have in our CIDP, one of the really urgent things we want to do is water harvesting. We had El Nino the other day. Go around Kilifi and you'll see it's dry again. Soon you'll start doing relief food to communities. If we had all this money, which is rightfully devolved to counties, we would have put dikes, we are doing it as a county. We have bought water tanks now to put in schools. And in July, you'll see more. Because we want to, in the institutions, we want to harvest water when it's raining. Yeah, because many of the schools, ni shule za mabati, so you could harvest water and use it again for something else. But all this money...
Governor, look, we gave ourselves a constitution. We said we shall have 2 levels of government. We said these functions shall be devolved unit functions, these ones shall be national unit functions. You 2 levels of leaders are unable to have a conversation around it. Do you want us to take the constitution back and start doing these things ourselves?
We have already taken some matters to court, and we are waiting, because you realize there's back and forth always, talking and no much action. As I've said, there's so much money still which we can mitigate climate change. The funds you could get, the amounts you could get in agriculture, because one of the losses we get, like the other day we had floods, is crops were destroyed, many things happened. And in agriculture, fishing, blue economy, is part of the programs you have in agriculture as devolved to the county. But look today, we have to still work with the Ministry of Blue Economy, all the money comes there, then they decide even who will do the contract in Kilifi. And this happens also with the Equalization Fund. For over 10 years, the Kenya government has collected money for Equalization Fund. Kilifi County is one of those counties. But because there are some people who want to do business back in Nairobi, they were not releasing the money to the counties. The money is in a consolidated fund. It's running to billions. Now, we thank God that the new chair is Captain Roba, who was the governor of Mandera. And because he's now in charge of the Senate, for the first time, now the counties will receive the money directly to implement project on the ground.
Okay.
But what are we doing to take all these actions? As a county ourselves in Kilifi, for example, we are devolving the functions. I have just formed 3 new municipalities, which I'm going to launch soon: Mutwapa, Watamu, Mariakani, Mazeras. We had Malindi and Kilifi. We are as executive. We are devolving now the functions from the governor and the CEC's level and chief officers to the municipalities.
Them to municipalities
so that we
and
devolve
towns.
the funds. If it's a climate action or whatever, we devolve it there so
Governor,
that things can be done on the ground.
Thank you. I've got to stop you there because we are coming to towards the end of the show, but we've got to go back and engage with Suleiman Yeri, who is talking to the people in the audience. Suleiman, let's hear a couple of voices as we conclude.
Bila shaka kuna masuala ya plastiki, lakini kwanza kabla ya kupokea maoni kuna moja hapa ambapo anasema along the beach, particularly close to the ocean, we have quarries popularly known as timber. The majority of these quarry owners will extract blocks and sell them countrywide, leaving the ecosystem in a poor state. In addition to leaving the land bare as the building blocks are extracted, there are no safeguards in a place to protect the locals. As a result, you will discover schools like Bahari Primary where pupils are exposed to dust. The county government benefits from the levies, but not much is done to restore the environment. The government agency in charge of looking into environment issues remains silent. That's the question. You wanted to talk about plastic, so you have a minute to do so.
Habari zenu. Kwa majina yangu naitwa Steven Fanuel Otieno. I'm the chairperson in an organization called Bahamads or Gadze for Charity. We are doing what we call Zero Plastic Campaign. I've heard you guys talk about climate, trees and everything, but you didn't emphasize about the plastic situation, because plastic is the biggest contributor of climate problem that we have right now. So we want to know what the government is planning or is about to do to engage us, we CBOs that are dealing with plastic situation, so that we can be able to work together to solve this problem. Because if you go along the beaches, as I've read from I've heard this guy what he was saying, that we need to find a way that we can be able to come up with a campaign in conjunction with the county government to solve these plastic problems. So, Mr. Governor, that's the question to you. What do you have in us as CBOs that are dealing with the plastic situations? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Back to you, Latif.
Asante sana, and we've got to come to conclude this conversation. I want to thank everybody who's participated in the audience. Asanteni sana, the audience from Pwani University. A round of applause, please. Clap for yourselves. Asante sana. And then we are going to thank my panelists tonight. The Governor of Kilifi County, Gideon Mungaro, Chair of the Jumuiya County of Pwani, Gladys Mjama, who's the Director of Partnerships and Investment at the Jumuiya. We also had Philip Kilonzo, who is the Head of Policy Advocacy and Communications at PACJA. PACJA is the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance. Granton Mwandawiro, Waziri wa Mazingira from Taita Taveta County, and Lucy Atieno, who's an academic researcher on climate adaptation. I want to thank you very much for joining us and for this engaging conversation we've had. It's about climate, it's about adaptation, and there's a lot of action that needs to be done to support the government at county level on what they're doing, to support the communities on what they're doing, and all of us then shall have a better life. Thank you very much for watching. This is KTN News. My name is Eric Latif. Have a good evening.